welcome to this video. Today I wanted to show you one of my games, a game that I played when I was 20 years old at a tournament in Kołobrzeg in Poland. And my opponent was Slawomir Strumilo, who was 400 points higher rated than me at the time. And also I was playing black, and it was a must-win situation in the last round of the tournament for me. Not to mention that I was at the time an undergrad student and my opponent was a biology professor at the university. So the situation was quite overwhelming for me. Pressure was high. Let's see how it went. So my opponent played the move d4, and amateur players like I was, definitely, I still am, they learn quite quickly how to play against one e4, but against one d4 they are a bit lost most of the time. So was I. But I knew a little bit of ideas, so I knew that it was all about the control of the center of the e4 square in particular. So my next move, my first move of the game, has to take control of this square and stop white from creating this perfect pawn center. So I played knight f6. I knew a little bit about some King's Indian-like setups, but that was pretty much about it. However, my opponent surprised me on the very next move. He played bishop g5, which is the so-called Trompowsky attack. I had no idea what to play and what this was all about. But instinctively, I played the best move. I played the move d5, immediately strengthening my grip over e4. And now, even though white wanted to capture the knight on f6 to weaken my control of e4, by playing d5 I strengthened it enough. White took the knight anyway, and by doing so, yes, removed the defender of the e4 square, and also he will give me a weakness. The f pawns will be doubled, but in return I am gaining the bishop pair, so it's probably an equal position. But yeah, to my disadvantage, I didn't know how to play it. When faced with this decision now, how to recapture the bishop, I had two options. Take with the e-pawn, which is the standard and probably safest and objectively better move, or to take with the g-pawn, which is more aggressive, and that's what I chose. Keep in mind, I had to win this game. By playing with the g-pawn, I'm immediately hoping to put some pressure on white's position along the g-file. But of course, it's a very double-edged position, as you will see later on. White played e3. Now, of course, e4 was impossible. So this is a logical move, strengthening the center, opening up this bishop, just a normal development. I played the move c6, so I also strengthened my central grip. White played c4, immediately attacking my center. And I played the move e5. Now I'm attacking white's center as well. So it's a kind of exchange of aggressions. But as you can see, it has a lot of resemblance to amateur games, because none of us have developed any pieces yet, and we are just making pawn moves. So you can sense that this is probably not the optimal handbook way of playing chess. C takes d5 by white. Now I have to recapture. I took with the queen. Well, white immediately takes advantage of my move, develops the knight, and gains a tempo on my queen. I develop my bishop, pinning the knight. So for a moment, white cannot capture my queen because the knight is pinned. It would be illegal. So white decides to put a question to my bishop, a3, immediately attacking the bishop. Now, I cannot maintain this pin. If I go back to a5, after b4, I will lose material because the bishop is attacked and also the queen. So I have to take. Bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3, knight d7, developing the knight. Of course, it couldn't be developed to its most natural square on c6 because there is a pawn there. White develops his knight, and I waste, or you can say spend, another move to put the knight on a better square on b6. Now the knight is controlling these important squares. Bishop e2, quite a timid development of the bishop, but where else could it go? If it goes to d3, then I have e4 forking both pieces. I played bishop g4, so it's kind of a advantage for me, a slight advantage when it comes to development of the bishops, because white had to develop his bishop to a passive square on e2, while I was able to develop my bishop to a more active square on g4. As you know, and it is often recommended when you have a choice, when you can develop the bishop to different squares, like here I could develop it to d7, e6, f5, g4. It's probably a good idea to develop it to the most aggressive square possible. White castled. Well, obviously the king, it's desirable to remove the king from the center, and the queen side for white is completely destroyed. The king would not be safe there, so castling king side is probably logical. And now I decided to go crazy, very aggressive. I castled queen side, so now you can see the opposite side castle. Castling creates aggressive attacking opportunities, but of course my king is not safe, not really safe here either, so the b file is open, those pawns are coming. Now the question really is, whose attack will come first? Rook c1. White is immediately trying to attack my king, and using these pawns in particular. You will see it in a moment how it plays out. I'm playing h5. Well, I want to push my pawns, try to attack him as well. c4. My queen is attacked. It has to go back to e6. And now d5. You can immediately sense the danger. These pawns are super dangerous. My queen is attacked. First of all, I have to move it again. And then this pawn probably will fall soon. And with this, the c file might be open. You know, all the dangerous, scary things can happen to me on the queen side. Okay, but first things first, I need to move my queen to safety. I decided to go to f5. And white develops his queen to the queen side, of course. This is where he wants to attack, right? So now, not only those pawns, the rook, but also the queen, all of those pieces are coming on me. Rook h to g8. Now I'm using the open g file, and actually I have a threat. Can you see the threat? You can pause the video if you want to find this threat for yourself. Okay, the threat is to take on f3, and then the pawn on g2 is pinned, so white would have to take back with the bishop, and then I can take again with the queen, and the pawn cannot take back because of the pin. So I will win material, I will win a piece. White decided to defend in, I would say, yeah, adventurous way as well. But what else could he do? I'm not sure. So by attacking my queen, white hopes to win some time. I played the e4, which is a very nice move, blocking the attack on my queen, but most importantly, forking those two pieces. White, of course, has seen that and played knight to d4. So knight gains some time, gains a tempo on my queen. So one piece escaped the danger, and what white was hoping for is that now when my queen moves away, then the bishop will be able to move to safety here or here. But that's not what I had in mind. I played the move bishop f3, completely ignoring the attack on my queen. Well, you can say it was a queen sacrifice, but of course white cannot take the queen. And the reason why white cannot take the queen is that rook g2 check comes. Then the king has to move to the only possible square, and then the rook will move back anywhere, and it's checkmate from the bishop. So white couldn't take the queen. Instead, he played rook to e1. So the idea of white is that now the king has the escape square on f1. So after rook takes on g2, when the king goes to f1, there will be no discovered check when the rook moves. That's the idea, that's the hope of white. But I played rook g2 check anyway, winning the pawn. But most importantly, this is the beginning of a checkmate attack, and you will see king f1 according to the plan. And now another brilliant sacrifice. Well, probably shouldn't have said it because it's a game between two amateurs, but I like this move. Rook g1 check. And white resigned. That's game over. I won the game. Why is it game over? Well, what would happen if white takes the rook? Well, then there is queen to g4 or queen to g5, doesn't matter. Check. The king has to go either, cannot go to h1. Okay, king has to go back to f1, and then queen to g2 will be checkmate. This square is controlled by the bishop. So this is a so-called decoy sacrifice. The rook is sacrificed, but it drags the king to the g file when it will be checkmated. So we can see that this g file, the opening over the g file, actually proved to be lethal for white. Very interesting, adventurous game. I hope that you enjoyed this game. It was entertaining, hopefully maybe in some way instructional. And it was a game between two amateurs. I'm an amateur, but I think there's a huge educational value in games like these, as Jeremy Silman also said in his books. There's so many mistakes and inaccuracies in such games that we can learn a lot from them. And I hope that's the case here as well. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.